Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second session of Skills Fest 2025. I'm Jonathan Ledger, Skills and Professional Body Specialist at the Department for Business and Trade. It's a real pleasure to have you all on board this morning. We've got a fantastic array of UK skills and training organisations that are going to talk to you about their brilliance in an international setting. So I'm really looking forward to what they've got to say. We had a brilliant first session yesterday. Those of you that have been following Skills Fest will know that we have 11 sessions, so it's a mammoth exercise this week. 11 sessions, each of them is 2 hours, so they're every morning from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. Monday to Friday, and then 12 noon to 2 o'clock on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday also at 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. So lots of sessions to choose from. Each one is different. Definitely none of them are the same. And as I say, you know, we're going to have awarding bodies, colleges, training providers, language providers, professional bodies, charter bodies, all sorts of organisations. So lots to gain from a session like this. But we are, you know, not going to delay too much further. I just want to say, do introduce yourselves in the chat. It's a really good way to network with us and other colleagues that are online. So please do put your details in the chat. If you've got a LinkedIn page, perhaps put that in the chat as well, and then people can connect with you. Do put your questions in the chat as well, and at the end of all the speakers we have a section for questions and answers, and so we will go through those questions, and all of our speakers will stay on for the questions and answers session. So without further ado, let's get on with the show today. But before we do, let me just introduce our fantastic speakers. So we've got Apprentify, Sam Field is up first, Emma Roberts, she'll be joining us shortly from World Skills UK. Chris Moore from Specialist Language Courses, SLC. Emma Hannant from Unitas, a very good morning to you. Nina Hinton from Open Awards, a very good morning. And Tina Harrigan-James from Vitruvia. And last but not least, we save the best till last maybe, Tim Runcorn at Runacre. He's from the Education Training Foundation, otherwise known as ETF. So good morning to you all. Thank you so much for giving up your time and joining us. Let's dive in. So Sam, straight over to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, based on where you are based. It's an absolute pleasure to join this session. Thank you for the invite, Jonathan. Really appreciate it. I've got 15 minutes to give you an overview of our business and give you some insight into some of the cool stuff that we're doing, both in the UK and globally also. So what I'm going to cover, who we are, very briefly, what we do, which is clearly useful, an overview of our programs and how we deliver what we believe is best-in-class training and coaching to the UK market and to the globe also. A bit about our journey and where we've come from and where we're looking to go in the next 5 years. A key thing here was giving a bit of an overview of some case studies. So I've taken one in particular, a recent project that we've executed with Stack Infrastructure, big American owned data center business. And then there's time for Q&A as well within my session, but also at the end of the session too. So who are we? So Apprentify Group. We are a group of 250 people across 7 offices, 6 in the UK, and our international hub in Dubai. And we're a group of training businesses that focus on giving people opportunity, but also developing existing people and businesses too. So under the Apprentify Group, we have 5 limited businesses, all SMEs within their world. Pretty pragmatically, we've got the Juice Academy, which is our marketing focused business. So working with marketing teams, injecting marketing talent and developing marketing teams within businesses. We've got Flourish, which is our go-to-market specialist business, which supports commercial teams in terms of injecting new talent into businesses, but also developing existing individuals. We've got our Apprentify business, which is quite confusing because we're part of Apprentify Group. Apprentify Limited is our apprenticeship focused business. We've got IODA, which is our inclusive leadership, management and coaching business. And we've got Netcom, which is delivering training to over, on average, 9,000 individuals a year who are looking to get into work, upskill within their existing role or pivot to a new opportunity. So through our group operating businesses, we believe a solution for every company and every organisation, both in the UK and abroad, to win in what are often tough times. And the beauty of what we're delivering is often it's funded, but we're able to offer world-class solutions also commercially funded too when the funding option doesn't quite work. So why Apprentify? We've grown rapidly. We're 6 years old as a business. We've gone from 0 people to 250 and now 30 million revenues. But we do things really well, we believe, and quality is at the focus of everything we do. And there are some associated badges of honour that have come with that. So we're an Ofsted outstanding provider when it comes to our apprenticeship provision, which puts us in the top percentage of businesses delivering what we do. The Times has recognised us recently as being the one of the top 3 rising stars in EdTech in Europe, but also we've recently received an accolade of being number 30 fastest growing business in the whole of the UK, the top training provider within that list. We're Tech Industry Gold accredited across our technical programs, so industry leaders, the top tech businesses, are saying that our courses are fantastic, not just academically, but also for the economy and the challenges that are being faced in the tech world, which we're super proud of. But the growth has come with quality improvement. So our QAR is high and is improving. It remains over 70%. We've recently been LinkedIn has selected us as #1 business in the Northwest, given our social impacts, I guess, in terms of what we're doing as a business. And in the world we work in, we're the fastest growing apprenticeship business in terms of starts, revenue, etc., etc. So we're super proud of where we've come from, where we're going, and that comes from the quality of what we're delivering as a business, both in the UK and abroad. We've got some missions, and I want to rocket through this clearly, but there's 3 key missions that we have, and the first one is advancing skills and talent. Everything that we do as a business is taking individuals from learning to leadership, and that's super important as part of our value proposition. So advancing skills and talent through data, tech, and AI skill upskilling. We're building data-driven culture within our client base. We're developing digital and technical skills daily. But the big thing that we're doing also is we're injecting hungry, motivated, tenacious, innovative, and diverse talent into our client base, both in the UK and abroad. And we do that through some really cool ways of assessing after attraction stage and discovery days for emerging talent, injecting them into our client base, which we think develops future talent and deals with the operational technical debt that a lot of our clients are facing. Service desk we see as a key area we work in terms of harvesting and creating future technical talent. And we run bespoke development programs for our clients, not just for now and the challenges they're being faced now, but for 5 or 10 years in terms of succession planning. Digital learning, we empower growth. That's a key part of what we do as Apprentify Group. So we foster a culture of digital learning. We make sure that we're working on a bespoke basis where we can with a brand or a client to make sure that the learning has the absolute outcomes that are needed to get the return on investment of everything we do. But a key thing that we're doing as a group from the learning stage right through to leadership is the EDI piece is super important for us. We're truly passionate about the innovation that brings, and it's a key part of our value proposition. And at the same time, we're always keeping it simple for scale. So we've developed that KISS analogy into a better phrase: keep it simple for scale. And the talent piece here in the UK and both abroad is, and has been for the last 10-15 years, has always been a tough area, especially when it comes to the tech talent and the technical debt that's developing around most boardroom tables. So we focus on women in leadership, women in data and tech. They're key parts of our value proposition. But we're finding through our Netcom business, we're attracting around 5,000 individuals a month through that business who want to enter the world of tech. And we're putting them through a process to assess them for that, for an opportunity, and then put them through boot camp based training over 12 weeks to then put them into an opportunity, which we're super proud of. Talent mobilization is key for us, and we are making sure that we're engaging the future workforce, again, from learning stage, to make sure that we're pipelining the best talent possible for our client base. So what do we deliver? So I'll put in two key buckets here. So the first thing that we deliver as a group, I guess, is tech, data, and AI programs in short course version. We're delivering those courses to individuals new to the workplace, individuals within businesses who want to create a better opportunity for themselves, or promotion, or better earning opportunity. But also we're delivering these courses to individuals who have maybe been made redundant or are pivoting from their previous career into a new career or a new job, given the economic landscape right now, both here and abroad. So we're delivering these 12-week programs. And to give you an idea, last financial year, we delivered these one or some of these training courses to 10,000 individuals last year. In the UK alone. We deliver these 12-week programs with Intel and CompTIA at level 2, level 3, and occasionally, when required, level 4. They're delivered through our Netcom business, and that's a way of nurturing and training emerging talent, but also upskilling quickly existing talent. And the international market has identified huge opportunity for these programs from our goodbye base. In terms of the longer programs, which are apprenticeships, we deliver those both through levy funding, but also commercially on a commercial basis as well. So we specialize in data, software and cyber, BA, AI, ICT, and the other tech programs that you would imagine that we're involved in. So these are between 12 and 15 months in length. The key thing is we deliver these through levy funding, but also we deliver often these courses through commercial funding as well. So if you look at the devolved nations and also internationally, the likes of BBC, the likes of BT, will train their individuals through one of our apprenticeships, but pay for it commercially rather than through the levy, given any eligibility issues, but also speed to mastery rather than to competence, so we can do some extra things within what we're delivering. So our recipe for success, I guess, is skills, not standards. So we've achieved the growth we have through understanding our clients' pains and understanding their challenges, and ultimately delivering a skills solution based around all of our group value propositions, not just based around the standards that the levy funds. So it's a tripartite, I guess, triangle around commercial solutions, given the world-class trainers and coaches that we have and the curriculum we have. Funded solutions through Netcom and Apprentify through boot camps and levy funding, and obviously the apprenticeship piece as well. So we have three means of delivering what we see as the end to our client, which is dealing with their technical challenges, future-proofing their business, and developing emerging talent and the future subbench, if you like, or future talent for their business as they grow and succession plan. And generally, what does a journey look like with a client of ours or a partner? So we get the quality, the QA levels that we do, and the growth we do. It's not easy. It's super challenging, especially with the headwinds that we face here in the UK. But we've achieved our growth through trying to offer bespoke solutions wherever we can, which, as I must stress, focus on skills gap, not try to fit around the standards that apprenticeships deliver and boot camps deliver. So it's super important that we go through a process on every project we work on to make sure we're delivering an absolutely perfect solution that's going to make a difference and create ROI for our clients. So we start with discovery phase with our clients, and we look at any new talent engagement that they need to fill skills gaps. We then, for our clients, and I'll come on to some examples short. So BBC, for example, we're driving and running their whole AI training campaign across their estate. It started with discovery and understanding exactly what their challenges were. It then goes on to the design, how we're going to deal with those challenges, skills, not standards, and then the engagement strategy in terms of how we're going to find the learners, identify the learners, and then make sure that they're choosing the right solution for them, rather than just putting individuals on a program because it seems like the right thing to do. Then creating defined pathways, launching a program, and then we deliver classroom sessions, one-to-one coaching, commercial apprenticeship journey, and asynchronous learning through Canvas and Percipio as well. We think we use the best platforms to deliver world-class training. The vast majority of what we're doing based on client demand is delivered virtually. However, we do also, when requested, go and deliver stuff face-to-face too. And where we can, and again, using the BBC example, is we add in as many qualifications as we can where they're valued certifications, progression pathways to deliver the best program possible that's going to make a difference to the business. And post-training, we create an alumni network through graduation events and any progression opportunities onto further programs as well. So we try to follow this journey on every project that we deliver, no matter how small or large, to make sure that everything we're delivering has the learner at the centre of everything, ROI and impact at the centre of everything, and delivering skills to deal with technical and operational debt, not just work around standards that the apprenticeship world says that we must work around. So what's it look like? Again, I just want to rocket through this, but business analysis, stakeholder engagement with the client, collaboration, employer and employee panels. So we believe if we use B&Q, for example, one of our large clients, the vast majority of the programs we deliver to that business, they have co-designed with us. And the Women in Leadership program there, for example, is driven by the women in leadership roles within that company through panels, through curriculum, councils, where they're designing what they need to make them better at their roles within that Women in Leadership program. Everything that we do is bespoke where we can. So we look at the apprenticeship option where we can in terms of levy funding, but where we see a greater impact, we propose a commercial solution which might have quicker ROI. We're flexible in our delivery, and our focus is all around evolving processes, developing digital culture, and driving inclusion also. And I want to give you this example of stack infrastructure, which I guess embodies the kind of stuff that we are doing as a business. The stack infrastructure, a huge data center business, US headquartered with a big EMEA operation. AI has exploded. That's fueled the need for further data center space, more racks, bigger SLAs in terms of the amount of people that are needed on site, first line support, etc., etc. So they selected us as Apprentify to work with them across EMEA to do a number of things. The first thing was to develop 300 individuals in the UK and abroad, not just for themselves, but for the data center industry. So we are identifying and training 300 individuals that might not actually be engaged by Stack within the data center world over 12-week boot camps, which is super cool and part of their inclusion and EDI strategy. So that's one thing that we're doing. We're also sourcing for them 36 individuals, emerging talent level individuals across Switzerland, the UK, Italy, and Oslo. So that's Norway. And we're delivering attraction processes for those 36 individuals, assessment days and discovery days. And we're facilitating their interviews to identify 36 emerging new career individuals who are going to join within those countries to be data center experts. And following that, we're going to use in each country where there's levy, clearly in the UK there is, Italy there is as well, but in some areas there aren't too. We're delivering on the back of that an 18-month curriculum to take that individual from someone who was like me at 22 years old to being a data center professional over an 18-month period. We're using apprenticeship solutions where we can. We're using commercial solutions where we can. We're delivering the Italian program in Italian, and we're delivering an 18-month program for every one of those 36 individuals to be a data center expert. So that, I think, concludes my presentation, Jonathan. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please ask if there is any time. If not, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for listening to my presentation.
I'm Chris Moore. I'm the Managing Director of Specialist Language Courses, SLC. I'm going to be talking today about a project that we are working on with our India partners, where we are combining our different skill sets, our different knowledges to work on a program that is designed to improve the levels of nursing English among nursing students and professional nurses across India. So it's quite an ambitious project, and I'm going to go through the whys and what we're doing and some of the early results that we are coming across. So we've been around for a few years. We are an English language specialist. We work with digital only, and we focus very much on English for healthcare. We publish digital materials and we provide online language training to clients around the world. A lot of the work we do is with the NHS in the UK, but also hospitals, healthcare employers and individuals in many other countries, including India, where I'm going to talk about today. These are some of the courses that we publish. You can see that they are profession specific, so English for doctors, nurses, pharmacists and so on, but also cross healthcare, so grammar, medical terminology, medical academic purposes, so writing, reading skills, that kind of thing, as well as test preparation for people who are looking to work in hospitals and healthcare environments in other countries. So this is going to be important in terms of the program I'm describing today. So the challenge. So our India partner, they are very much, and I'll talk about them in a little bit, but they're very much across India working in education. And they came to us as a healthcare English provider saying, look, we've got this issue in India that we want nurses and nursing students across the country to have better profession specific English, so nursing English in particular. Why is that? So there are a number of reasons. Firstly, nursing education, clinical education in nursing colleges is increasingly delivered in English. Professional development opportunities for nurses, but also, across the board for healthcare professionals, is very often in English. It is the lingua franca of healthcare in many ways. So if you attend a conference or a workshop, the chances are it's going to be in English. The sort of more recognized research journals will publish in English and so on. In India, hospital record keeping is often in English as well, because we've got patients and staff from different states, different parts of English. So India, so English is the common language. That's often reflected in the hospital communication that people are part of. So working, if you're a nurse in an Indian hospital in Delhi, for example, you're working with people from other states and always often other countries as well. And so the mainstream communication is English. And then for those nurses who want to work or study overseas, they need to typically pass a test at a high level in order to be able to facilitate that. So there's lots of reasons why nurses and nursing students need better levels of English. So our partner in India, they came to us and they said, look, what we really need to do is target nursing colleges. They're the ones where nurses are, they're in education, they're in the one place, they have relatively predictable timetables, and there are large numbers. So we want to work with nursing students. But what is the problem? The problem is that a lot of the nursing students currently in India have very low levels of English. So our partners did a diagnostic. This is about 680 odd nurses from a number of different hospitals in Chennai, where they are based. And we can see here, this is a kind of levels chart. A1 is beginner level, A2 is elementary, B1 is pre-intermediate. So we can see that most nursing students across the 3 and 4 year courses that we're on are coming in at pretty low levels, and certainly way below the level they need to be able to operate at any kind of with any degree of competency in a professional context. So when working in hospitals or wanting to work overseas or attending a conference, for example. And so why is that? So the number of reasons. I mean, firstly, secondary education, as you would expect, doesn't provide anything to do with nursing or healthcare focused English. So people aren't really prepared for the kind of English they're going to use in practice if you're working in healthcare. There are a few available resources. The stuff that we publish, it's fairly unique in the market. Not many English teachers are used to working with people in healthcare students. The English courses themselves reflect that. They're kind of quite traditional, more grammar based, more translation based. They were the ones that we were working on when we looked at the Indian education context. So not really around clinical communication, for example. Each of those nursing colleges has quite a different approach to training their nurses in English. So it's very fragmented. Some do it really well, some not so. English isn't it? It is a compulsory part of education, but often the time allocated and fair enough. It's, they're doing nursing courses, not nursing English courses. But, the insufficient time to really improve the professional language skills of those nurses on their courses, whether they're diploma or degree. So lots of reasons why the language level is not very strong there. So EBEC are our partner. They're a pan-India publishing house, education services provider, provide test centres also for English language tests around the country. Great market knowledge. They have strong relationships, particularly in healthcare, actually. So with nursing colleges, corporate hospitals, and so on. They're able to carry out diagnostics on the ground. They have a bank of teachers, which is very important for the programme I'm going to describe, and they're greater on the ground problem solving. We bring all the kind of sort of nursing English expertise, if you like, in terms of the writers and the teachers, the content that we produce, the ability that we have to create tailored courses, and also our ability to train teachers to deliver on these programs. So we looked at combining the strengths of the two companies. And what we did is that we took the clinical education of those nursing degree and nursing diploma programs, and we broke them down into pieces, and we mapped them against the digital content that we publish, and looked at where we could bring in different elements of those courses. And these are the 5 key courses that we drew on for this particular program. And having sort of thrashed it out and done the mapping, we came up with a program called Nurse Eng, so Nursing English. Nurse Eng, it's a 3-year for diploma and 4-year for degree digital nursing English course. Everything is online. Students access it and teachers access it through whatever device they have. Each college has its own area on the learning management system, so they're able to keep their students in the one place, track all their progress, upload assignments, that kind of thing. This is the brochure here, so we're happy to share that brochure with anybody if anybody's interested in having a look at how the program breaks down. It's a blended course, so we're looking at using EBEC's teachers to deliver on the ground, but working with the digital content, which was standardized across all nursing colleges that we worked with. And that standardization is really important from a sort of a quality assurance perspective. This is an example course. This is year 2. We can see that it's 60 hours teaching, and all the years had 60 hours teaching. So we tried to keep it as predictable as possible. And then there's 55 hours of online study. So they work in tandem with the teachers using the content in their classes, but also the students are able to go and get on their phones and do the content, do the follow-up work, do the preparation work outside those classes as well. So year 2, so the clinical language drew on that English for Nursing Foundation program, which I showed. So it's got 5 areas for year 2 anyway. So we're looking at falls and injuries, working with the elderly, working with infection, pain management, and dealing with mental health. And that breaks down to lots of sub-units as well. It's a mixture of terminology, clinical communication, which is a really important part of the course, as well as hospital specific language, supported by grammar sections, which break down into sort of verb forms and functional things like giving advice and making suggestions, asking questions, all super important in a healthcare environment, as well as medical terminology. So we combine these different elements, and this is what we did for year 2, and we have similar things for years 1, 3, and 4 as well. So in terms of delivering the curriculum, EBEC were responsible for bringing the teachers in. They had access to a large bank of local teachers, and they were able to source very good quality local teachers, qualified, experienced, and we were able then to work with EBEC to induct and then to train those teachers to deliver on the curriculum. EBEC's relationships with the colleges meant they were able to speak with the colleges to ensure that the program would be implemented in the right way, that time would be set aside in the right way, and so on. And then together we produced lesson plans and support materials for the teachers. So again, everything was standardized, and that was a really important thing. So we knew that wherever we worked, whether it was in Chennai or Delhi or another part of India, that the program was going to be the same. And, there will be local variations, and levels of English in some places might be slightly higher or lower than other places. But generally speaking, we wanted to have a kind of predictable program that we could then measure, learn from, and then reiterate. And this program sort of shows how that happens. So Once we had all the lesson plans and support materials in place and the teachers were able to go in and deliver the course, the online study was there and we could again track engagement and progress. At the end of the year, a generalized assessment was implemented, so the same assessment across all the colleges, and that allowed us to have a look at the progress made, to review how things were going, to get the feedback from the teachers as well as from the students, to do the learning on that, and then to reiterate it and then start again. Now it's fairly early on, so we've done a couple of years now, so 2 years from a 3 and 4 year program, so we haven't done an entire cycle yet, but I wanted to share not only the design of the program, so you could see what kind of content was being delivered and how it was being delivered, but also some of the early results. So it's been used in around, I think, 22 colleges. So that's a very small number of colleges at the moment, but we see it as a kind of pilot. We think it's a great model that can be expanded elsewhere. So one of the colleges is in Hyderabad, and we've got the breakdown of their progress across the 2 years. So 279 students, they've done 2 out of 4, so they're on degree programs, and these are the early results. So this was the diagnostic, and this was fairly representative of all the people. So we can see large numbers of people coming in at low, elementary, pre-intermediate levels. Now, year one, after year one, we can see that hardly anyone is in A1 anymore. So very few beginners, and everyone's moved up into elementary and pre-intermediate. And then by the end of year 2, more numbers are going to that pre-intermediate scale. Ultimately, we want people to come out at a upper intermediate level, which is at the kind of upper end of the B2 level. That's what we want after the 4 years have been delivered. So this one is for people who started the program on year 2. The program was kind of implemented for all nurses in the college, irrespective of which year they were on. So year 2, at the end of year 2, they were this, and then they'd gone up through year 3, and then similar for year 3 to year 4. So we can see that the early results are really promising, and I think very encouraging, and hopefully more will build as the program is delivered further. So that's our program in India. This is not only something we do in India, we also have other programs running in other parts of the world, which do similar things. So take the digital education content that we've published for healthcare and then apply it for their own purposes. This is a 3-year program that's just starting in Vietnam, but we also run other nursing English programs in Italy, Bahrain, medicine in Uzbekistan, pharmacy in the Philippines, professional development for English lecturers in Indonesia, and a nursing foundation in Saudi Arabia. So it shows that the digital content is very flexible, very customizable, and can be adapted to very different environments. And I think the India program is a great example of that, but the other programs also show the inherent flexibility. So that is us. That's SLC. That's what we do with Digital Healthcare English. These are my contact details. I'll put them into the chat as well with a link to the LinkedIn profile, and very happy to answer any questions at the end, of course. So thank you very much for listening.
Chris, and take a breath. You covered a lot there, didn't you? Amazing stuff going on with languages. I particularly like languages, and I see a lot of demand for languages that are really tailored. So really focusing on industry, vocational English, I call it. But of course, they call it English with a specific purpose and all sorts. And that's exactly what you're demonstrating, right? So it's lovely to learn, tourism language, where's Buckingham Palace, where's the phone box and all of that. But actually, a lot of industries are global industries, and you need to be able to kind of allow for that and learn those technical words that come into that particular industry. So, definitely SLC is one of those organizations that can do that. And by looking at your case studies and that, even though it's a bit of a whiz, you can definitely apply this in lots of different countries. So you are the man to get in touch with when it comes to languages. So thanks very much indeed for your time. Kick around. We'll come back to you for some questions and answers. Next up, though, we have Emma Hannant. She is from Unitas. Emma, are you there? Good morning to you, Emma. There you are. Lovely. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Really appreciate your time. And your presentation is up and running. So over to you. Thanks so much.
Fabulous. Good morning, everyone. I'm Emma Hannant. I'm the CEO of Unitas. I'd like to start by just giving a little context as to why our training is globally required. The world over is largely seeing an uplift Yeah, just a bit of context really as to around who we are and why we're required. The world over is largely seeing an uplift in adult crime, with many prisons at crisis point. And like many other countries, the UK is also seeing a decrease or change in child imprisonment, with those crimes becoming significantly more violent, with young offender institutes now containing some of the most vulnerable children in our society. Adult prisons too are seeing more complex and vulnerable adult serving sentences. Unitas believes there's an opportunity to educate those working directly with these children and adults, both in prison settings and the community, to better implement rehabilitation through a cohesive understanding of the individuals and their needs. Unitas also has a reach into other professions such as police, probation, scenes of crime, security and intelligence through our crime and criminology education. We're a not-for-profit business, and we've been operating since 2008. We were created by leading academics and experts in the field, alongside founding members of the Youth Justice Board here in the UK. We're a leading specialist higher education distance learning provider who has evolved to become an agile global educator within the justice sector. Unitas really does have a simple mission, and it's to professionalise the workforce through the provision of quality education. Having worked with over 80% of local authorities across England and Wales, we've also trained over 1,000 prison staff to date. This has allowed Unitas to create a model that is adaptable and is currently under review for use by other nations. My ambition is to embed our results method of delivery globally as a standard. In 2021, we launched our crime, criminology and criminal justice degree pathway, which has attracted students worldwide for its accessibility, both financially and academically. The degree pathway is highly regarded among many professions globally, and its transferable and adaptable knowledge. This degree is popular choice for our international students, with careers spanning from police, crime scene and forensics. It remains one of the most popular options, but with student debt at an all-time high, there are still many young adults who are excluded from achieving this as a pathway. Unitas remains committed to providing a value-driven degree that is affordable to all, regardless of where you're located in the world. Our degree pathways are validated by the University of Suffolk here in the UK, and we're able to work with other institutions to validate against your own nation's university credit system. Unitas has developed a flexible approach to learning that is adaptable to your needs and requirements. Our short courses are recognised CPD globally and can be awarded your nation's CPD mark if required. I'll come back to the details of those shortly. Our modular degrees offer a pathway from level 4 to level 7. So, for example, in Europe, that would be an EQF level 4 to 7. For those countries that operate a UK-based justice system, our development team are quite able to work with your own justice experts to embed local practice and policy into the programme to ensure delivery is valid and relevant. As a specialist, our degree offers an in-depth theory and practice specific to youth and criminal justice and incorporates contemporary research and findings. We also have our own publications to go alongside our courses, which underpin and support all of our courses, providing our students with a well-rounded experience. Our CPD options include Child First and trauma-informed practice, which are gaining momentum as global strategies within multiple settings such as healthcare, social care and education. As experts in the field, we offer this bespoke online training to global audiences who are looking to deepen their knowledge and practice of how they're working with children who are at risk of or who are already maybe within the youth justice system. These courses have assisted to successfully shape practice and policy for all of our learners. At just 5 weeks, they deliver focused learning around supporting the best interests of a child in the youth justice system. Our extensive work with local authorities and the prison service in the UK has allowed us to develop and refine critical qualifications for those working with the most vulnerable children and adults in our society. The wide range of customers allows us to build a connected education suite that encompasses all areas of justice. Unitas has many years of experience, including academic research, to be regarded as a respected provider of education in the field. We've developed networks around the globe to adapt and shape our courses for implementation in other countries, all delivered on our bespoke learning platform. Unitas does pride itself on being student-centric, with all decisions made around the learner being at the heart of that. With pass rates of over 70%, we believe we have the correct formula for successful delivery. It was largely set up as a philanthropic venture, and that will always remain the basis of our interactions with learners and how we build our courses and why we build our courses. All of our courses are specifically built in a modular fashion to allow flexibility and sense of achievement for our learners. These modular built courses drive success through offering students an opportunity to effectively chunk down their learning and build their course into manageable levels. Each of our students has a dedicated learning coach who will work directly with them to offer a tailored journey. They themselves are experts in the field and have real life knowledge to underpin theoretical knowledge, giving our students a rich and diverse understanding of youth and criminal justice. Our coaches themselves undergo rigorous induction to ensure that they offer quality teaching. Many of our coaches have also contributed to the building of our courses and all the materials that we use within them, which keeps them fresh and current. We're extremely proud that we attract a high calibre of coaches to ensure our students continue to receive an excellent experience. Our bespoke learning platform is accessible 24/7, ensuring that no matter where you are in the world, we're still at your fingertips. We understand that learning takes on many different styles, and we've therefore incorporated a mix of media materials made up from written, audio, visual and interactive to encompass and engage all learners. We endeavour to be open learning, which means that we will assess each individual student to their needs and requirements and their individual circumstances for entry onto our courses. This has allowed so many students to achieve what they thought was out of reach. With assessment only by written assignment, we're exam free, as we believe proof of learning isn't achieved through a 2-hour exam, but through a continuous assessment process and consolidation of their knowledge. As well as our degrees, Unitas looks for other ways to support those children directly. We've delivered a number of standalone projects successfully through engaging children in art projects. The school holiday programme was designed as a diversion, giving children at risk of being involved in crime an opportunity to achieve an award and gain literacy and numeracy skills. The success of these was highlighted through reduced reoffending and lower numbers of children committing first-time criminal activity. Through creative arts such as poetry, graffiti and music, these children developed their numeracy and literacy without even realising it. As a result, for these children, they had improved learning outcomes in their education settings, which was just great to see. This framework is modelled for worldwide use among schools, clubs and youth justice services, and largely anywhere where it could be deemed appropriate. I wanted to give you an idea of what success looks like for us and how it comes in different shapes. So I'll let you meet Steve. Steve was enrolled by his employer to complete our degree. He left school at the age of 16 with next to no qualifications and no aspirations of academic achievement. He was told by his teachers that he would amount to nothing and wouldn't progress with his attitude to learning. This is a story that we hear quite a lot. Steve was diagnosed later in life as having dyslexia, which pushed him further away from any notion of completing further education. And frankly, it was why he was aggressive and rude to my staff when they were trying to help him settle. He felt he was being set up to fail, where we saw it the other way, really, that we saw it was an opportunity to succeed. We created an individual plan around him to tackle his degree bit by bit, stage by stage, and just aim to achieve that first level. Focus only on that for now. With a learning coach who encouraged him every step of the way and an empathetic ear in our student support team when he felt he just couldn't continue, Steve actually did manage to complete a full BA Honours in Youth Justice. Watching him stride across that stage at graduation to receive his degree, frankly, will always be one of my treasured memories of working at Unitas. And it's what we stand for when it comes to education. That empowerment that's given to someone, the personal growth that was evident on that stage, and his resulting new job is exactly what I come to work for. We strive to give more people that exact opportunity to succeed. I'd like to share another quick example of excellence when it comes in the form of Joanna. She's a student who's based in Mexico, who's encountered some serious health issues, which saw her wanting to quit this course. We've allowed her to take a 6-month break for her to take time and stock of her situation and find out what she needs to do to progress. Our student support team has always remained on hand to answer all of her questions around how she could juggle her degree in her new circumstances. But even from being on the other side of the world, we were still able to give her that encouragement, give her that confidence to continue. With the additional resources and time with the same learning coach, we've created a tailored approach for her to study, and she is actually on target to achieve a first. This is an incredible testament, really, to the dedication of all of my team and how we strive to treat each learner as an individual, not just a student number. As part of the growth of Unitas, we're also working with schools globally to provide teacher training, specifically around embedding child first and trauma-informed into their skill set. This comes from a personal element for myself with my own child who struggled in school, having been involved in the youth justice services, and the lack of connections that still existed. We need to do more. We need to do better. Children who are at risk of or who are already involved in youth justice require adults to have an understanding of this complexity of their own situation and who can communicate with the other agencies involved to ensure that they're supported and treated as children when it's all too common for children to experience adultification purely through lack of knowledge and skill. We believe there's an opportunity to give our children a better path into adulthood through adults who are trained globally to a recognised standard. As the world becomes more connected, it's imperative that we all apply this same knowledge and techniques for our children to succeed. I'm aware more than ever through my own teams of the global reach of social media, for example, and the negative effect that can have. We need to unify this approach of how we interact with children and young adults globally through applied education across this justice sector. As CEO of a not-for-profit, honestly, nothing gives me more pleasure than speaking to our students throughout their course, but particularly once they've completed it. So I'd like to finish with a few of my favourite quotes from the feedback we receive from our students that just goes to show how much we care and how well we deliver. I could never have dreamed I'd achieve a degree, but I have thanks to Unitas. We hear this a lot. That lack of self-belief that we have to overcome with them time and time again. The materials are brilliant and keep me engaged throughout my course. Our bespoke platform is unrivaled for its delivery and engagement. Even the time difference hasn't stopped me having a great connection with my learning coach. Our coaches are well versed in being available to students when they need them. The student support team was so helpful when I thought there was no hope of me finishing my degree. My team are carefully selected for their empathetic nature to ensure my students feel valued. So to sum up really for today, I've just got a few reminders of why we're recognised for what we do. We go above and beyond for all of our students. Our flexible approach to learning gives the widest engagement for our learners. Our distance learning model has an adaptable global reach. Thanks for listening today. I hope I've given you an idea of how Unitas works to improve the lives of children and adults through education. My contact details are listed below. If you've got any questions, please give me a shout.
Emma, thank you so much. I had no idea that you covered so much, but it actually feels so you're really kind of brilliant and well knowledged in that area. And in the justice system, you know, these are kind of real important qualifications and training elements that you're delivering and really unlocking what people are doing, which is really fantastic. But yeah, I had no idea. So this is really good. I'm really glad that you showcase what you do today. And of course, that encourages people from around the world to be looking at this as well, because of course, young people in the justice system and those looking to work in the justice system, this is a really great way to unlock a fantastic long-term career. So thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you. Great. Next up is Nina Hinton, and she's from Open Awards, one of our regulated awarding bodies here in the UK. Good morning to you, Nina. Lovely to have you on board.
Lovely, thank you. So morning everybody, or whatever time it is where you're listening from. My name's Nina. I work for Open Awards. We are a UK education charity. We are an awarding organisation, access validating agency and apprenticeship assessment organisation, and we specialise in alternative qualifications and assessment. So most of what we do is kind of entry level, so pre-GCSE through to kind of level 2, level 3, and then feeding into higher education. My background is working with young people and adults with special educational needs and disabilities, and designing alternative education that supports meaningful progression opportunities and routes into employment. So I've just shared a few stats about Open Awards and the impact that we have. As I said, we're based in the northwest of England, but we support education providers nationally across the UK and internationally. And in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to share some of the ways that we approach inclusive skills development and how these are addressing issues of gender, equity and social inclusion, and focus on examples that can be replicated or adapted internationally. And a lot of what I've said, it's really nice to say, is going to echo some of the messages you've heard from the first few presenters this morning. First of all, I wanted to touch on our inspiration at Open Awards, why we're a charity and why we do what we do. So these are all pictures of learners that have been shared with us by the schools, colleges and specialist training providers that we work with. And each person has had a different journey through education. They've all achieved meaningful outcomes, including getting paid employment, starting university, living more independently or continuing with their vocational education. And really this is why Open Awards exists. And these are some of the things that our learners say that they want. So to achieve maths and English so they can start an apprenticeship, to travel independently, to find a job I'll love, to live independently, to make my own money, to be more confident in the classroom and at home, and to go to university. And that's really the starting point for everything that we do at Open Awards, is looking at what is it that our learners want to do through their education. Before I get into some of the detail, I just wanted to touch on the global picture. Every country is different. Every area within a country can be different, but there are some shared challenges that we're all facing. I'm going to talk through a couple of these. So I'm not going to talk through all of them on the screen, but I wanted to highlight particularly globally, young people with special educational needs and disabilities face much higher unemployment rates than their peers. It's hard to get accurate figures, but different reports range from anything between 70 to 90% of people with disabilities of working age are unemployed, and that compares to over 80% of non-disabled people of working age being in employment. And for young people with learning difficulties, disabilities and autism, that figure drops to as low as 5%. So this isn't about ability in most cases, it's about barriers to education and the employment systems that we have. Another key challenge is recognition. So skills don't always travel across borders. Migrants and refugees may arrive in a new country with strong qualifications, but if they're not recognised, they often end up in low paid or unrelated jobs. So a waste for them and for the society that they're living in. And all of the challenges on the screen intersect with each other. So digital divide, rural access, lack of employer partnerships. So looking at some of the ways that we can tackle this. And again, this mirrors what we've heard from SLC, Unitas and Apprentify this morning so far. So one key area is looking at the ways in which we assess. As I said, my background supported employment and training and systematic instruction. So I've always got the mantra of try another way in my head, and that translates really well into the qualification and assessment design space. So traditional assessment methods such as exams can be biased against certain learners, may not accurately reflect their knowledge and skills. It's a snapshot of how they've performed on that day. And we will all know the challenges around engagement and impact on mental health. As I work for an awarding organisation, I must absolutely stress there are times when an exam is the best method of assessment for a particular qualification, but there are opportunities to improve access through both remote and digital assessment that we've touched on, including remote invigilation. And to ensure inclusivity, we need to make sure we're offering a variety of qualification types and modes of assessment that cater to different abilities and map to the outcomes we want to assess. So the best way to assess whether someone can do a job isn't to interview them or to examine them on their knowledge, it's to see them do it. And that same principle applies to qualifications and accreditation. So we work closely with our education providers internationally to design high quality internal and digital assessments. And these approaches allow a more holistic and authentic evaluation of learning outcomes and makes it easier to adapt assessment for specific learners without compromising the validity of the outcome. Following on from that, not every programme needs to result in a formal qualification. I get into trouble for saying this all the time because I work for an awarding body, but we see really good examples where bespoke curriculum works really well to support skills development by supporting a structured framework for evidencing outcomes. So the example I've put on the screen is recognising and recording progress and achievement, or RAPA. There are similar frameworks that kind of translate across different countries. But the essence is you set goals with your learners, the learners set their own goals, they carry out activities, review their progress and celebrate what they've achieved. This works particularly well for special educational needs and disability provision, where progress might not always fit into a neat qualification box. So a learner developing communication skills, teamwork or independence might not need a qualification, but through a framework such as RAPA, those achievements are still recorded and celebrated. And this for me is an example where inclusion isn't about everybody being able to get every qualification. It's about making sure that every learner's progress is visible, valued and portable. That then leads us on to bespoke qualification development, which is a service Open Awards offers internationally and is probably our most popular international route. So on the screen is a gentleman that's working towards a Braille qualification that we developed with a specialist training provider back in 2023. And the average age of learner for this qualification is 70 plus, showing that if we develop the right qualification for the right group of people, it will work in terms of achieving outcomes. So bespoke qualifications can be designed to assess skills or knowledge and enables us to be extremely flexible in how we assess and how we evidence those outcomes. Bespoke qualification development is a strong example of partnership working, enabling us to increase inclusion and accessibility to education by focusing on the learner's aspirations and what they need to do to progress within their local education and labour market system. And then I wanted to touch briefly about supported internships, so following on from partnership working. This model's gained popularity globally with fantastic knowledge sharing across borders on what works. The model is simple. It's a partnership between an employer, an education provider and a specialist supported employment provider. And young people with special educational needs spend most of their time in a real workplace. So their classroom is in the employer in most cases. Their time within their education is at the employer's place. And they have support in the workplace from job coaches to build confidence and independence. This isn't just about getting a job, although that is the key outcome from a supported internship and similarly for supported apprenticeships. But it's about building a sense of belonging in the workplace and showcasing to employers what young people can contribute. The key to supported internships is having the right support in the right place at the right time and using supported employment techniques such as job carving, role profiling, working interviews and training and systematic instruction. They can break down those traditional barriers to assessing someone's ability to do a job. Learners on supported internships are far more likely to achieve sustained employment outcomes than peers who don't have access to this route. And this is something I could talk about for hours and I won't because I'm conscious of time, but more than happy to kind of share good practice from the education providers and colleges we work with on this model. And then finally, looking ahead. So as I said at the beginning, some of this is not about getting full qualifications. And one of the barriers is around recognising achievement, particularly kind of across borders. So micro-credentials and digital badges are kind of a newish accreditation route, small bite-sized achievements that learners can stack up over time. So rather than having one big qualification that is the core outcome, it's about building skills and knowledge over time. And again, that echoes something that Unitas mentioned when they were talking earlier. So it's about flexible, manageable and motivating assessment over a period of time, potentially for learners who may not be ready for a full qualification, but can also lead to a full qualification. Digital badging captures not just technical skills, but also those soft skills we've talked about and can be shared on a CV, LinkedIn profile, digital portfolio. We all love a badge, but it's about having that learner recognition that travels with somebody. And for international mobility in particular, that's crucial. So if someone earns badges in the UK, an employer in another country can still see and understand those skills because they're broken down into those small micro pieces of work of learning that make it very clear what it is somebody can do, what they know, and how that translates into the workplace. For young people with special educational needs or disabilities or those in alternative education, micro-credentials allow achievement to be broken into achievable steps. It reduces the risk of failure, builds confidence while still leading towards larger qualifications and employment outcomes. So this is an exciting area where inclusion, innovation and global recognition come together. Appreciate that was a whistle-stop tour through some of the models that we adopt at Open Awards and support our schools and colleges with. Key messages really to take away from those examples that could be useful internationally and across borders. Firstly, the power of partnerships. So employers, educators, awarding bodies, specialist supported services, all working together to create learning programmes and associated assessments that provide credible evidence of the skills and knowledge that somebody has, whilst ensuring learners can access both their learning and their assessment. So it's about taking a step back from that end assessment, focusing on what is it that somebody needs to know, what do they need to be able to do, and how can we teach them that and then evidence it. The need for flexible assessment routes is becoming more important. Wide range of valid methods to assess both knowledge and skills, and collectively we can be really creative in designing these, moving away from kind of what we've always known because it's comfortable, and potentially looking at offering more than one type of assessment within the same qualification may be appropriate. Other times it might be about carving up the achievement into bite-sized chunks. Thirdly, the importance of recognising all progress, whether formal or informal, and using this to set meaningful targets and to stretch and to challenge. So again, it goes back to this being about what we are teaching and what somebody is learning, and focusing on that journey for them. That could, as I say, be micro-credentials and digital badges. It could be a supported internship. Digital assessment is becoming more important in that, but this is about recognising what people can do, making sure that they get the recognition for that, and that their accreditation is portable so it can follow them both into the workplace through education and into different countries as well. And that's where micro-credentials and digital badges can work to bridge borders, support mobility. Context matters. Every system is different, but hopefully that's given you a few things to think about in terms of the principles that can be adapted to fit local needs. Key thing for Open Awards is about partnerships. It's about us working together. We work closely with employers, education providers right across the globe, looking at what is it that you need in your local area, what have we got that already fits, or what can we do to go back a step and look at what it is you need and develop something really bespoke that will support both young people and adults through the system and into those employment roles. So I think what I wanted to do is leave it there for today. We're just food for thought, really. So what could work in your own country? How could we collaborate internationally to build those effective assessment and accreditation systems? How can we take that learning from there isn't one size fits all, and build bespoke curriculum, bespoke qualifications that support education achievement for all? And I will stop there, and obviously happy to take any questions. I will share my details in the chat, and pick up.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Emma. Nina, really interesting presentation. I love regulated qualifications because, of course, particularly we're built around modular chunks, a bit like Lego. You can bolt them together in different ways as well, and all of those are certificated in their own right, as well as a collective qualification. And it's great to see that Open Awards is actually really open and looking around the world for partners, and you emphasize the push on partnerships as well. This is about co-create, and collaborate. So fantastic. I'm really, really pleased to see all of that in progress, and quite a diverse range of qualifications under Open Awards as well. Can I just ask one question, though, which is around your international mission? What made you look overseas? Why are you working in the international space?
Yeah, so I think really it was around looking at what works in the UK and looking at where that translates really well. So we know particularly alternative kind of level 2, level 3 qualifications to support progression to university works well, and we think there's a space for that internationally. But also looking at where are there gaps in the UK market that we can work with our international partners to kind of create that portability across borders, so that we are supporting learners kind of wherever they are to have those options and to move into roles across countries that work for them. So really it's about those kind of learner outcomes, sharing good practice, and we know what works. We know there's a market there for it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nina. Thank you so much indeed. Our colleague from World Skills UK won't be able to join us. They're having real technical difficulties. They've got a gremlin this morning. So we're going to move on down the agenda. And next up is Tina Harrigan-James from Vitruvia. Tina, are you there? Hello, Tina.
Hello, everybody. So as Jonathan says, I'm Tina Harrigan-James. I'm here as co-founder of Vitruvia, and I'm delighted to be able to present to you today. So thank you so much, Jonathan, and the fantastic UK Skills Partnership for this opportunity. So the first slide I've got for you this morning poses a question. So it's for reflection, really. Just want you to think back to your first job, maybe after school or college or university, and think, was there a missing human skill that perhaps held you back or caused an issue, maybe a misunderstanding in a situation or a missed opportunity? Put some examples of human skills on the slide for you. We call them human at Vitruvia instead of personal skills or soft skills, because we're living in the age of AI and robotics. So emphasising what we bring as humans is vital. And actually, a bit of history for you. I found out only this year the term for soft skills actually was first adopted by the US Army in the 1970s because they wanted to identify the kinds of skill that would create better leaders out of their troops. That's interesting. Certainly from my point of view, the human skill I wish I had developed for my first job is social influence, because I've always worked with young people. So being more aware of how social influence works would have been very helpful to me at that stage. So just second question there, which builds on the idea of the importance of our human qualities. So I'm an educator, first and foremost. I've taught English, drama, business. I've taught in mainstream and specialist settings, and I've taught human skills in a whole range of contexts, including for adult learners. And I found through those decades of teaching that the most valuable element of learning is often that accidental learning that happens along that learning journey. And by that, I mean things like the self-learning, maybe the communication skills or the leadership skills that you sort of pick up along the way. And I think a lot of us will recognise that feeling of achievement, you know, when you get to the end of a course and you realise you've actually developed some resilience, or you've shown some real agility and adaptability, or you've really developed your personal leadership skills along the way. But those skills are generally not taught. Sometimes we expect learners and employees to use those skills to complete the tasks we set them, but we don't actually teach them those skills. So an example, I think, would be a group task. When we set a group task for learners or for employees, are we teaching them how to speak in a group setting? Are we teaching them how to participate but not dominate? How to listen instead of just hear? Or how to manage group dynamics? What would happen if we did teach those human skills? Would the task be completed more effectively? Would learners achieve a higher level of understanding? Would employees accelerate their productivity? Could learners discover new meaning and unlock creativity if we specifically taught them human skills? And would employees be more confident? We might actually get better leaders and project managers and problem solvers. So we think the answer to all of those rhetorical questions is yes, which is why we're saying that human skills training is the cement that binds the bricks. I do love a metaphor. It creates that strong, stable foundation for lifelong learning across TVET and academic programs. And of course, we're not alone at thinking that at Vitruvia. So I've just gathered together a little bit of evidence from international studies that have been completed by organisations, including these here, all in agreement that human skills are essential for productive and fulfilling lives. So the OECD there refers to trends like globalisation and advances in AI, changing the demands of the labour market and the skills needed for workers to succeed. The OECD says that people need to rely even more on their uniquely human capacity for things like creativity and curiosity, as there on the slide. And the ability, they talk about the ability to learn, which we think is really key. They're talking about social and emotional skills like perseverance and curiosity becoming essential as classrooms and workplaces become more diverse. And you've got Nesta there, produced a report called The Future of Skills Employment in 2030, and they found a really strong emphasis on interpersonal skills and higher order cognitive skills and system skills. Then you've got the International Labour Organization there. They have a global framework on core skills for life and work in the 21st century, and they categorize skills into two groups, the social and emotional, and the cognitive and metacognitives, and those are the two categories that we're most interested in as an organization. World Economic Forum, of course, appears there. They have a core skills for 2030 list, which they got from talking to employers internationally. Top skills including creative thinking, flexibility and agility. Systems thinking comes in there. Curiosity makes another appearance in that top list. And lifelong learning, again, that learning to learn and lifelong learning piece coming in. Core skills now, yes, but expected by employers to increase in importance going through. And UNICEF, the last one on that slide there, have a global framework on transferable skills. And that calls for skills and human rights-based vision of quality learning. And they talk about the magic glue. So I guess a bit like our cement metaphor that I used in the previous slide, UNICEF likes to talk about the magic glue. So that's the international consensus, if you like, around human skills. So we've responded as an organisation, and we've developed what we call the Human Skills Matrix. That's our framework, and it underpins all of our human skills training with 89 competencies. Part of that human skills training ecosystem that we've created, focus is on bridging the skills gap, just as with so many other organisations in this skills environment and education environment. That's what we're here for. We're here to raise the skills levels, particularly for marginalised groups, people with additional learning needs. So particularly design programs for young people aged sort of 16 to 25, that we have worked with younger learners. We design programs for women who are returning to the workplace or who are entering workplace later on in their lives. And also we produce programs for people with additional learning needs. We think human skills should be taught and practiced, not accidentally gained as an unintentional byproduct. We want the acquisition of those human skills to be evidenced, so that learners can actually identify the human skills they do have and understand how they actually acquired them and how of that to show employers or university admissions tutors, for example. So our learners complete activities in micro modules. Really pleased to see Nina talking about micro modules. A bit of a buzzword, isn't it, at the moment? We have a learning platform we call the Quad, and that develops those human skills, and they gain rewards, our learners, in the form of digital badges and certificates. Again, that's something that's been mentioned before as well. And this slide shows a selection of those digital badges taken from our programs. And you can see there Small Talk on the bottom left there. That's one of our digital badges. So that's us teaching people how to manage those awkward social conversations. And that can be such a powerful skill, particularly for people who are perhaps introverted or neurodivergent or have missed important opportunities to we know is impacted. Got decision making there as well, helping people develop strategies and tools to reduce the stress of decision making and the likelihood of making a poor choice, really helping to build capacity. And I do want to just mention personal leadership at the top there, second from the right, because there are so many leadership courses out there, but we're really focusing on personal leadership and what that looks and feels like, because if we can't lead ourselves, then how can we lead others? This is our skills, our service map, our training offer for governments, for industry, for employers and education. Just on the top right there, identifying talent. So We help close regional and national skills gaps for government and industry sector bodies. We do that by building a bespoke, cost-effective training and outreach programme. So we bring in information, skills training and career inspiration, because we're basically applying that human skills training piece to whatever the context is that's provided for us by our commissioners. And we use multimedia, content, film, learning activities, and we can reach hundreds of thousands of young people with that kind of material. Second bit of information there, building capacity and capability for all TVET providers, because we know technical and vocational education and knowledge are not enough. Tomorrow's workforce needs self-knowledge and self-belief to achieve greater productivity. So that character building piece is just so important, and that's what we do. That resilience and values to create that foundation that I was talking about. The deliverers, opportunities and pathways down there at the bottom on the right, really supporting young people in particular to learn about opportunities and pathways and help them move closer to the world of work. So you get then, if you're an employer, for example, a more sustainable and engaged talent pipeline. Bottom left there, encouraging social mobility. So I've already referenced that. We know we've got talented individuals out there that are lacking that social capital, those career skills, that access to opportunities, and we want them to become fulfilled and productive members of society. So we work with government bodies to achieve participation targets, for example, and provide that tangible evidence that perhaps a career starter has developed that skills profile required to enter and progress in the workplace. The teacher's essential human skills, it's an obvious one on the slide there, really making sure that learners gain those universally recognised human skills that employers want. So we provide quite a lot of programmes to sixth form students and graduates and young people with additional needs, as I mentioned before. And then you've got the increase to economic growth at the top left there. Ultimately, that's your aim there. If you're a government or an industry sector body or an employer, you're trying to achieve growth. You've got your labour participation and your productivity objectives. You want to future-proof the economy and strengthen society. And those socio-economic imperatives we translate into programmes as well, so that we can empower people to become drivers of economic growth. So I have a case study for you. We had a few case studies we wanted to talk about, just focused on one. So we were commissioned by the Construction Industry Training Board, CITB in the UK, to promote construction to young adults and to students still in school. And the challenges that were shared with us included the poor reputation of the construction sector in the UK, the lack of understanding that particularly young people had about the kinds of jobs available in that sector, a lot of misunderstanding about potential career progression, low percentage of minority groups taking up positions, and an ageing demographic of workers. So quite a lot to try to resolve. So we created a short film, and we featured a diverse group of young employees and trainees. We filmed at -5 degrees in January on a construction site, heritage construction site in Oxfordshire, which was brilliant. Thank God. Featured usual jobs like acoustics engineer and future focused jobs like drone operator. We used a drone for this shot here that you can see on the slide. I had a lot of fun with that. And then we designed the suite of learning activities to build those skills for life and skills for career development. So self-assessment, how to work with mentors, how to research entry pathways, a whole range of skills for life and careers. And we differentiated that content so that we were able to include learners with additional needs, learning at level 1 all the way up through to adult learning level. And we created support materials for stakeholders, including teachers and parents, because of course they're a really important part, aren't they, of the learning journey, making sure that we include those. So Jonathan hasn't popped up on the screen yet, waving at me, so I'm just going to finish now before he does. There he is. So just to summarise then, summarising our mission is building character for career success. And of course, I'm using that because it picks up the cement and bricks metaphor, and it's got lots of C's in it. So as an English teacher, I like a little bit of alliteration. But of course, it emphasises the teaching of something we don't normally think can be taught. That idea of character, which comes from mastering human skills like growth mindset, resilience, adaptability, personal leadership, all of which we do teach. So we'll be launching our subscription for schools next week at Bet Asia. And if you're representing a government agency or sector body, we'd love to find out what human skills requirements you have. So visit us at our website or give us an email. You'll definitely find a human when you do. Thanks so much. Jonathan, back over to you.
Tina, thank you so much indeed. Really brilliant. I'm particularly impressed actually by Vitruvia's compelling, purpose-driven approach to human skills development, which is fantastic. And I love the human skills element of what you've got. And I think this is something that people always forget about. So this cement binding the bricks of academic and vocational education is really powerful as far as I'm concerned. And for me, it underscores how important it is to have really good soft skills like adaptability and communication and self-awareness, for example, in creating resilient and future-ready individuals. So I think more focus gets put on this these days, which is really, really good as well for you. And it's not just a UK thing, it is around the globe. Everyone is wondering what kind of skills are required and how do we deliver those skills. And of course, it comes in tow with technical capability. So really great to have you showcasing that with a brilliant example as well. So thanks very much indeed. Tim Runacre next from Education and Training Foundation. Tim, it is lovely to have you here. Just a quick reminder, everybody, this will be the last speaker this morning because Emma from World Skills UK is unable to join us because she still can't get access via her computer. Something going on with the gremlins. We will have Emma appear in a later session. We're already trying to sort that, so you're not going to miss out. But for now, Tim Runacre, ETF. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jonathan. And so great to be here at SkillsFest 2025 and bring up the end of this session of such inspiring presentations. Today, we want to talk about technical education and skills and ensuring quality. My name's Tim Runacre. I'm from the Education Training Foundation, and we really try and look after and support the workforce who are delivering these programs to the young people and the learners. Teacher training, if you like, but quite a bit more than that as well, which we'll come to shortly. But first, I want to set us all a challenge for all of us as skills professionals. I want to talk a bit about why this challenge is so important and perhaps what we can do together in each of our countries to address this challenge and support the system. So here is the challenge. There's a very recent UNESCO survey across its member countries that found that just 57% of countries, barely half of their countries worldwide, reported having any kind of consistent and sustainable teaching standards and policies to cover specifically technical education and skills. And I want us just to reflect on that question for a minute and think of two things. Firstly, what would happen if we replaced technical education and skills in that sentence with something like law or medicine, or even looked at our cousins in higher education? I have a feeling that that percentage would be higher. So why the gap in technical education and skills? And the second point of reflection is, what about your own countries? What kind of frameworks and standards do you have in place to govern TVET? And a couple of weeks ago, it's a pity that World Skills weren't able to attend actually today, because my chief executive and myself had a fantastic opportunity to travel to Euroskills in Denmark, which is, of course, lots of young people competing in the very top of their trades across Europe to attempt to win medals, such like in the Olympics. And one thing that we did during our time there was to make a point of visiting each of the country stands from across Europe, Germany, France, Spain, Denmark, Finland. And we posed exactly that question about sort of consistent and nationwide standards. And it was very interesting, the responses that we received. We would go to one country and they would say, absolutely, we have a national agency completely responsible for skills training and technical education. And it's managed in a system that works consistently nationwide. We would move to the next country stand and there would be an intake of breath and they would say something like, oh, that's a good question. Actually, technical education fits between about 4 different ministries, and actually the standards differ from trade to trade. So we can see that there is a challenge and lack of consistency globally, and that's something that we want to support and really address. So this slide just dives a bit deeper into that research by UNESCO. It's all part of their vision for 2030. And I just want to draw out that last bullet point, which I think really stands out as an issue. And that's actually less than half of the countries in the survey reported that most of their technical education and skills teachers actually possessed the minimum level of qualification required by law in their country. Now, that does sound quite alarming, but also I quite empathise, because in the UK, we're facing difficulties at the moment in terms of recruiting good teachers into the college system and into other institutes of learning, mainly because what you need is that really sort of good balance between up-to-date industry skills and knowledge that are quite recent with the ability and the skills to be able to teach the kind of pedagogical theory. We refer to this as dual professionalism, and we'll come back to that shortly, but it is a challenge, I think, when it comes to recruitment. So again, it's good for us all to reflect if that's also a challenge in our own countries. So I think just a bit more about us at ETF and why we feel that we are qualified and credible to address this challenge. Well, we're the professional membership body in the UK that champions the vital role of technical and vocational education workforce. So to be clear, we do very little training or delivery direct to the learners. We don't provide qualifications or skills training directly ourselves, but what we do is very much focus on the workforce, focus on supporting the teachers and providing them the capacity building and the pathways to really excel in their profession. And of course, this is all about tracing that impact right back from the end goal, which is essentially to have a skilled workforce who come out of the technical education system with the skills, training and knowledge they need to reflect what employers need, make them more employable, and of course drive the economy and grow the economy. So that can be traced back, of course, because behind every learner is a good teacher. A bit about our reach and impact at the ETF. And I think one thing I want to say is, by a fortunate timing, every year we release our impact report, which very much looks at some of the projects we've delivered across the country over the past year and the impact that's been achieved. And today is officially the publication date of our 24-25 impact report. And I've uploaded it on the portal that Jonathan kindly shared before the session. So please do, if you have 10 minutes, have a look at that publication, because it really demonstrates our impact when it comes to technical education workforce development. So we have, we have over 23,000 individual professional members that we provide a range of tools and resources for, and career pathway information. And it's really great actually to see some of my fellow speakers and some of the delegates here at SkillsFest are actually active ETF members and quite often, take advantage of the CPD we offer. We manage several large contracts for workforce development on the main technical qualifications and pathways here in the UK. We deliver T-levels and of course apprenticeships. So we're responsible for the countrywide administration of those. And also we really work to drive not only professionalism, but inclusion in the sector. There's very much a Jessie lens on this series of presentations this morning. And we do a lot of work in SEND teacher training, for example, and to maximise everyone's chances in the system. Of course, this is an internationally facing forum, and we've been making sort of real progress recently in international outreach. We've developed further connections with the EU, for example, and also opening up conversations across sub-Saharan Africa. And really, this is the thrust of this presentation, is for us all to reflect about kind of good practice in the UK, and can these standards be adapted to support the teaching workforce worldwide. And so beyond the theory, we don't believe that sort of professional standards come up much earlier about the standards versus skills. And we don't believe that professional standards needs to be this kind of 1,000-page manual that gathers dust on someone's bookshelf. It's all about the practical manifestation of that, and how does that present itself and give teachers confidence and support they need to provide those great outcomes for the young learners. And we believe that great teachers never stop learning. And these are the reasons why, and the different modes of learning that teachers can access. But just to focus on one there, which is that point in the top right about dual professionalism. And this is really preoccupying us at the ETF at the moment. And this is about, in this very rapidly changing economy and climate, and sort of massive leaps forward in technology and different techniques used within trades and professions, how can we ensure that teachers are not only, spending their time in the classroom, but keeping very much up to date with trends and development in their sectors? And also, how can we attract more individuals who have perhaps had a very illustrious career to reach quite senior levels in a particular trade or industry to come into technical education? And this, I think we've already talked about. What is the long-term impact? Well, it's a connected and thriving skills workforce, attracting and keeping good people to deliver lasting learner outcomes. But longer term, having people come out of the system who can improve communities and really address the needs of employers. So now we come back to what support we can offer around this whole arena of standards and professionalism and capacity building for teachers. Well, we talked a lot about standards, but we also try and chart pathways for especially teachers in technical education and skills who may be sort of starting in their first year in the job at that initial teacher status. How do we support them and guide them as they move through to perhaps an experienced teacher, an advanced teacher, perhaps head of department, moving then perhaps into management or even the chief executive of a technical education college? Each of those sectors is very much represented in our membership body. And we do a lot of work championing in the role of technical education, predominantly in the UK, working with the UK government, but increasingly, as I say, internationally as well, across Europe, other countries. The standards themselves are split, I think, into three areas. It says here sort of values, knowledge and skills. I like to see that firstly as behaviour, and secondly as theory that underpins the pedagogy, and thirdly really that how that is applied in the classroom, the practical application of these standards, which is a big focus of ours. And talking about how these standards and support needs to evolve to meet the needs of these changing times, we've recently developed what we call a specialist status in sustainability in education. Statuses are a little bit like accredited qualifications or your sort of typical programs, but very much focused on observation and allowing the learner and the teachers to evidence this applied knowledge in the classroom. And this is to reflect the priority, I think, which is growing across all our agendas around sustainability. The programme is aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. And for the first time, we've seen actually interest from outside the skills sector. We've had delegates enrolled onto this status from blue chip international companies as well. So to start to wrap this up and bring this to a kind of call to action for us all, if you like, there are three things that we strongly believe: that every technical education TVET teacher is trained and supported to high consistent standards, that every country and region has the data, funding and capacity to meet the local skills needs of their employers, and perhaps most importantly, every learner has the right to be taught by professionals who are highly skilled and valued. And to finish, our calls to action for us all, and I think it's all good to reflect outside the UK and think about the situations and kind of arenas in your own countries as well. I think that we need to work together to develop national targeted workforce strategies for teachers and education in technical education and skills. Kite marking and benchmarking should be put in place for those teachers coming into the profession at those early stages to help them understand about competence and excellence and apply that. And finally, that we need access to improved and transparent data on workforce training spend. We need that link with employers and the skills that they're looking for, so then that can feed back in the virtuous loop into the curriculums and programs delivered in TVET. Thank you all very much for listening. I just want to say, please do look at the website. There's a lot of member resources there, but also some free to air and free to access as well. In particular, there's soon going to be a tool called a skills scan, which, coming back to the whole point about the standards, will allow you to kind of benchmark your own sort of professional competence and skills against what we might call good practice. So thank you all very much for listening, and I'll hand you back to Jonathan. Thank you.
Tim, thank you. You don't quite get away with it, I'm afraid. So if you stop sharing your presentation, we're going to call everybody back for some questions anyway. But Tim, I think it's really interesting because I look at the layers that are in any skills environment, and I always think, we always focus on students, and, we might think about what government wants in this process and what employers want. And no one really ever thinks about, the leadership and governance and the teaching side of the institution enough. Yeah. And I do experience, working around the globe, that lots of organisations that are doing teaching and training, it's almost like the best teacher becomes out of college, into the training environment kind of thing, and then they never actually have any work experience, and they don't necessarily know how they match up. And so, the work that ETF does around building that capability and capacity to make it world class, for me, is absolutely key. And I guess, one of the things that I look at is do you have to work with whole organisation, or can you just work with part of an organisation? I mean, like one department, and kind of spread the practice of best practice from there, or do you have to kind of do a whole organisation? Do you find it most effective in one go?
Well, absolutely. It's a good question, Jonathan. And I think that our membership and partnership structure is split between services for individuals, but also a whole offer for what we call ETF partners. We have about 60 of those, so predominantly sort of further education colleges, but also corporates and public sector bodies as well. And so they're looking at that perhaps departmental and organisational lens, so that how can that be fed across sort of the whole organisation or part of it, while at the same time we're working directly with the individuals and supporting them as well.
Fantastic. I do have some questions for our speakers. And I'm not going to pick on you individually. I'm just going to throw the question out there. But there's a question here about how are portable credentials and digital badges enhancing skills mobility for workers across different industries? Many companies have either branches overseas, sister companies overseas, or they actually have big supply chains that are in other countries as well. So how do your qualifications and training programs, how are they portable across borders? Anyone want to pick that up?
Shall I start with that one?
Come on then, Nina.
I was the first person to drop in the buzzword, I think, of micro credentials, as you said, Tina. So I think the key difference with that type of accreditation is because it's small and bite-sized. So whereas if you've got a regulated qualification, it might have quite a lengthy title. So, a qualification in science, for example, doesn't necessarily tell people exactly what somebody knows or can do within that. It's quite broad. Whereas the use of that kind of digital badging and micro credentials is much more specific, because you are accrediting all the small chunks of learning that have gone along the way within somebody's course. So they might build up a portfolio over time. They might only have a few micro credentials, but it's something that is very, very visible. And therefore employers or other education institutions looking at the kind of entry requirements can really see, what does somebody know, what can they do, and how does that map to either the job role I've got or the course that somebody's applying to. And I think that's what really helps with that portability, is it being really transparent about what it is, rather than kind of mixed up in jargon potentially, and those kind of bigger programs of learning. Thanks so much. Anybody else? Tina?
Yeah, just picking up on those points that Nina's just made about the transparency. I think it's also really important that learners understand what they've learned. And it's much easier to be able to communicate with a future employer, for example, how you've managed to achieve a micro-credential or a badge, than it is to talk about the learning that you've achieved across an entire 6 months or 2-year program. And certainly from our point of view, the skills that we're talking about are universally understood as well. So that helps as well.
Brilliant, thanks. I have a question for Chris and Emma, actually, and it really relates to working in partnership with industry. And Chris, you've got a wide range of language programs that you offer. How do you tailor those to fit with each industry? I mean, do you sit with a board or something from a particular sector, or do you go and work with them? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a pretty good question. So, I mean, yeah, it's all about the needs analysis. So we tend to get, because we work very much in the healthcare sector, what we do is relatively, boundaried, I guess. So we get approached by a healthcare employer, for example, a hospital in Saudi Arabia might say, we've got all these nurses coming to us from Indonesia. Their English needs to be better in order to be able to communicate with staff and managers and patients as well. And we say, okay, so what does the communication look like? What skills do they need? Where are they now? So we'll kind of work on the needs analysis. We'll do a level assessment, and then we'll do a piece of work with them where we identify the specific outcomes, the kind of budgets they've got, the timescales they've got, and then we'll put something in place from there. And then we just build in a kind of assessment and review sort of mechanism to make sure that things are working well, and that where they can be improved, they are improved. But yeah, that initial conversation is super important, and that's really about the level assessment, the needs, identifying where people are now and where they need to get to, and what the timescales look like.
Fantastic, thanks, Chris. I'm going to pose the same question to Emma, just because you're in a slightly different sector, or very different sector, but actually you're in a kind of justice world, criminal justice, and that varies from country to country. So people might be thinking, how do they take that UK experience that you offer so brilliantly, and how do they tailor that to be local? So Emma, do you want to say anything on that?
So by and large, our platform is owned by us, it's managed by us, and it was created by us in terms of the materials that are in there. So what we've got is a very, very strong base of what we know works, what education is genuinely effective in those sectors. So the elements that would need to alter would be involved by taking your youth justice or criminal justice experts and actually working with those people directly to say, okay, what's the local policy? What's the local jurisdictions, and anything that we would need to make it bespoke to your nation can be done and has been done. So yeah, we are very easily adaptable to actually suit any, largely based around UK justice systems, of which there are many countries.
Brilliant, thank you so much indeed. A question around impact again for all of you, but maybe Sam, as you've not answered the question yet, we'll bring you in. I'm really thinking about impact of all the learning. It doesn't matter whether it's technical, language, whatever. But how are you kind of measuring success and impact? Because the question I always ask myself when we look at any international program, and I meet lots of providers all the time, they say they're brilliant and they say they're really good at what they do, and I'm always asking the so what question, right? So it's you're delivering this program and you've got all these qualifications, so what? What difference does it actually make to the people that are watching this and their education teams? What difference does it make to their students? It's all very well being having the UK that's brilliant, but so what? Sam, let's start with Apprentify. So what?
It's so interesting you said that, because one of our key clients is B&Q TradePoint. They're group across the UK and Ireland, and their big theme is always asking, so what? So it's interesting you do the same, and that segues into we're always trying to drive this ROI agenda with our clients, understanding the impact, not just for the learners, but also for the client as well. And B&Q is a great example where we've measured effectively over the last 12 months the ROI of the programs we've been delivering to them. So to give a bit of context, if you'll allow me, Jonathan, we train their shop floor staff targets. It's the TradePoint staff. It's the people that spec up your kitchens, your bathrooms, etc. That's through our Flourish brand, which is our sales focused business. And we've trained close to 300 people now, from shop floor right up to leadership within B&Q and TradePoint. And throughout that process, we've tracked the ROI, and they have measured through their data that we've improved their conversion rates across the whole of their business within the trained population by 7%. And the training, they've attributed £800,000 worth of profit to the training we've delivered to those 300 people from shop floor up to leadership. The uplift, which they've seen flatline before the training, the uplift that they've seen, the tangible uplift in sales and in the quality of their individuals through better leadership, is totally tangible, and they've attributed that success to partly, not fully, our training and development and coaching that we've done on site and with the leadership as well. So that's just one example of where we're driving to measure the ROI, the benefit, not just for the learners, but also client side as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Anyone else want to pick up on the ROI question, Tina?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point about the abstract ROI that we often see with our learners. So an example would be graduates that we have worked with in the past who had lost confidence in their ability to gain what they called a career job after they'd graduated, some who'd applied for 300 or more jobs. And working with us, they found that they could be more confident about their own abilities and their own skills, and their they were enabled to think that a job was out there for them. When we worked with women returners, some of the comments we got were, we really felt seen, we really felt that you understood us. And it's quite difficult, I think, sometimes to measure those abstract outcomes. So we can talk about, as an organisation, we had a target to reach 300,000 learners. We reached 100,000 learners, so good for us. But as you say, Jonathan, that doesn't mean there's an impact. Reaching is not necessarily impact. And so we like to pick up on those individual comments about how that abstract ROI that's a little bit more difficult to quantify.
Tim, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to make we got an echo. It's gone now. I just wanted to make a comment on the whole impact debate, because it seems, in terms of measuring impact, we've gone through almost 3 generations. The first was the kind of the happy sheets and the uptake, those kind of hard metrics. Then the second generation was about proving return on investment and tracing that longer term impact. But it seems we're in a new space now, specifically in the UK, but perhaps other countries in attendance, which is all about social value. So how can your projects and activities not only demonstrate impact, but social value to the wider community and wider industry? And I wonder if my colleagues are facing that as well, and what they might do to address that question.
Yeah, it's a great observation. So through our Netcom business, so again, we've got that suite of opcos within the group. The Netcom business is heavily focused on bootcamp training for emerging talent going into tech. So we've got combined authority contracts across North East down to London, West Midlands Combined Authority, Greater Manchester Combined Authority, West Yorkshire Combined Authority. And through that business, we're training individuals up to ultimately get jobs, to improve their lives. We give them laptops if needed. We really want to change the trajectory of where they're going, because it's tough out there for young people. The AI thing is really important as an agenda in this country, as I'm sure you're all aware, and it's important that we deliver really well certificated courses, in my view, when it comes back to that certification piece, because it's opened the world to the Wild West to training providers that believe they can train in AI but can't, obviously. So I've seen a huge drive from the combined authorities, but also from our clients, on training individuals up within AI, the use of AI, boosting performance, boosting efficiency, but also protecting their businesses as well. So like an insurance situation to protect themselves from the Land Rover situation that's still happening, the Heathrow cyber attack, which I'm sure data and the misuse of AI had a part of. So we're seeing a huge drive to train people up in AI and get people AI ready. And that's what we're being asked to do by the combined authorities and also ultimately by the government in a funded way.
I think you've been looking at my question, Sam, because I was going to ask about technology fluency, right? Let's put it in a big bag because it's a wide thing. You might not be involved in AI as such as a student, but there is, the simple click of an email that, can bring a company down with the wrong kind of link. And, we've seen it many times with ransom stuff and things like this that go on. So, and JLR, of course, Jaguar Land Rover, they've just announced this morning, that again, they're going to be closed at all sites across the UK till the 1st of October. Because of the damage that it's caused, and they can't get their systems up and running. So, it's not good for any company to be in this situation. But of course, there are hundreds of thousands of small, medium companies that have this problem every day. Outside of JLR, hundreds of thousands of organizations that, don't necessarily have that capability and capacity. And I wondered what you're all doing in the kind of technology space, even at that really basic level of, teaching people what kind of links to look for, what kind of fraudulent stuff to look for, and all of that really kind of just helps build that IT fluency. Because of course, young people, are the ones that, have IT everywhere in their lives, right? More so than I guess we do it as older people, and I say that as somebody that's just a little over 23. But, I think, kids almost like believe everything that happens on social media. So what can we do that gives them a bit more intel around spotting these bogus things and these dangerous things that go on? So Sam, come back in.
Yeah, so we're doing that, and a great example is companies are really waking up to this now, because the threat is real, and like you say, the supply chain impact through the Jaguar Land Rover, it's not just them, it's also the hundreds of companies who are primary supply chain, secondary, etc., who've been impacted by the financial issues that it's causing. Another example I've got, I guess, and someone used really well the persona within the presentation. So if you look at the personas of the kind of individuals that we're training, we partner Compass Group. They're one of the country's largest employers. I think they've got 55,000 employees. They identified that they were getting hit 1,500 times a quarter. Wow. Where actually an attack went through, if that makes sense. And if you think about Compass Group, facilities management, catering, etc., you've got personas from Jonathan in the bar. That's one of the personas they actually use, Jonathan. So when we're speaking with their board, we use Jonathan in the bars. Johnny in the bar is one of their personas, right up to C-level. So if you think about all of those 55,000 staff, if they're not astute with data use, AI, GDPR, then they're going to create more issues for the business, and that's why they're getting attacked that amount of time. So we're building a whole AI academy for the whole business. It's one of their 7 marquee programs across the group, which is training Johnny in the bar as the persona right through to C-level on how to use AI effectively.
Brilliant.
Which also includes.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else got a comment on technology and how you're using it? Actually, put this Q&A to a close, and what I will ask you to do, just to put you on the spot, because that's what I do. Oh, Emma, come in. Yeah, please.
So our concern with AI is actually from the other way, where we have students, because we're non-exam based, they're writing assignments. When they write those assignments, we are now at huge risk of AI being used within those. So navigating that from a training perspective has been really, really challenging, but it's something we have worked through. We use varying different softwares to try and identify it, but equally we have to essentially restructure the entire way we put together those questions for those assignments to make it very, very difficult for AI to give a good enough result that we can't tell it apart. With previous students, we've been able to, because we can say, that doesn't look the same as what you were writing. But with the newer students coming in, you've got no base level of what they can write. So it becomes a real challenge, and one that I think will be there for a long time to come.
It's a really interesting point, actually, looking at it from that angle, because there are some countries that don't really like hybrid learning or full-time online courses just because of that issue there. And also there is this thing about, how do you teach actual skills over the internet? And I've been around the world. I've been to see World Skills and all sorts of things that in Bangkok and Philippines and stuff, and I see lots of kids being taught things like welding, and you can learn 90% of the skill of welding, for example, online. You just need that 10% to be able to cope with that noisy environment, the smoke and the bright light, in real time, as it were, to polish it off. But you could teach a lot of it. But I think there's a real valid point, Emma, particularly around exams, is people do worry about, how is that valid and how does that actually teach the skills? But I think technology as well is kind of moving us down that line. We see a lot of AI, and we've got speakers later in the week on SkillsFest that are going to showcase brilliant artificial intelligence and AI, augmented reality and virtual reality and all of that as well. So they're really getting clever with it, but it's just taking the time to get round all of that. Just before we close, because I'm really conscious of time and we don't like to go over too much, I just wanted to give you all 15 seconds each. Why should anyone bother contacting you? So what, I should ask you. So I'm going to start that with Tim, because he's first on my clock, as it were, on my screen. So Tim, so what? Why should we work with ETF?
15 seconds. Well, our vision, as you know, is to improve technical education and skills through the support and training we provide to the teaching workforce. So we provide a whole range of tools and resources and guidance. So in terms of why you should contact us, if that is of interest to you and will help in your own organisations or colleges, then please do come and visit us to access those resources, and together we can drive professionalism in technical education and skills.
Tim, thank you so much, and thanks very much indeed for joining us. Sam, you're next on my clock. I'm going round like creeping death.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, we're a high quality output training business who deliver to get results globally, ultimately. And our super sweet spot is within tech, data, AI, accredited courses that future-proof your business, but also protect your business. We're doing that so well in the UK. Our expansion abroad is also going well. So
thank you, Sam. And again, thanks for joining, Emma.
You're welcome.
It's a simple one, because we're the experts at setting the gold standard in youth and criminal justice education.
Hey, that is a pitch. Thank you. Thanks so much, Emma. Chris?
English is the lingua franca of healthcare. To develop professionally and to develop your ability to communicate, to research, to travel and so on, and to have really critical conversations in very difficult environments. Sometimes you need fantastic language skills, and that's what we provide.
Brilliant. Thank you, Christina.
Doesn't matter what your context or your learners or your strategy is, human skills are universal, and we're the experts.
Well done. Thank you, Tina. Nina?
Difficult to round all of that off, isn't it, with those polished pictures? So I think for us it's qualifications and assessments are changing. Touched on AI, touched on digital. There's more opportunities than risks, and Open Awards is well placed to support you through that, and make sure that we can still get those valid outcomes that are recognised, but that meet specific learners and specific education providers' needs.
Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you, Nina. Thanks very much indeed to each of you for joining us this morning. Look, we do have more sessions. There's another one at 12 o'clock today and another one at 4 o'clock today. and the same times are happening on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, so 8 a.m, 12 a.m or 12 noon and 4 p.m. And then on Friday, just a morning session at 8 o'clock. Each session, lots of different providers every single time. So do join us. But in the meantime, let's thank our speakers for today. Really great to have you on board. All of the presentations, the recordings and any additional materials that they supply and they've talked about, we will share at the end of Skills Fest. So over the weekend, they'll all be uploaded to the UK Skills Partnership website, and you'll be able to access everything there so that you can watch them again and see how brilliant they were the second time and the third time and the 50th time as well, if that's what you want. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining. I'm Jonathan Ledger with the UK Skills Partnership and the Department for Business and Trade. It's been a real pleasure to have you here. Hope to see you at 12 o'clock or one of the other sessions throughout the week. Take care.